Hello everybody, welcome back to the Mermaid's Cave. I'm Leslie Levison and today we're going to be doing beaded fringe. Last time we did a beaded swag, today we're going to make fringe. When I taught this class regularly as a weekly crazy quilt class, it was called Dragonflies and Belly Dancers, and we've already done the dragonflies part with the sheaf stitch, and now we're going to do the belly dancer part. So as you can see, I've got a variety of fringes here. I've got just a plain straight fringe, a zigzag, a curly fringe, it's called kinky fringe, and then some variations of a straight fringe. So let's get started. You're going to want to thread a needle with a number 10 beading needle with either Nymo or Silamide, whichever you prefer to use. Oops, and let's get going. So to do this, the plain fringe, I've put on some beads here. And when you're just starting out, try not to put more beads on than will fit on your needle at one time. Just makes it easier. So first, I'm going to just push down this last bead here out of the way. So again, I'm just pushing this last bead out of the way. And then I'm going to go back through all my other beads. And then back into the fabric. Okay, that's your bead. I always like to make a knot at the end of each, or at the back of each fringe, because like I've mentioned before, people tend to want to touch it and pull on it. Oh, it's so pretty, blah, blah. And then it ends up getting too loose. So always make a knot after each fringe. Okay, so that's a very simple fringe. Next, we're going to do one that has a large bead at the bottom. So here we have, again, I have my beads on, and I have a very large bead at the bottom. And I'm just going to put one more bead on, a small bead, seed bead. That's going to be my anchor. So here's my little anchor bead here. And then again, I'm just going to go back through all my beads. And you want to make sure that you're really going back through every single bead. Otherwise, you're going to get kind of a curly Q effect, which is not what we're doing yet. We'll get to that. But for now, we want it all straight. You know, when I was younger, I used to be able to do this 1, 2, 3. I don't know if it's my eyesight or my hands, but it might take a few more seconds to do. And you hold on to that last bead and pull through. And there you go. So now if you're going to be doing beads, like a big bead on that, what I would do is alternate it with a plain fringe. So I would do a big bead, a plain fringe, and then a big bead so that they don't clang together too much. Okay? So that's just a little hint for doing that. And again, I would knot off on the back. Next up, we have a zigzag fringe that all the beads just fell off of. This is why I should always double thread my needle. Just hang in there with me a minute, and we will get this. Ta-da! Okay, so let me get all those beads back on. And what you're going to do is you're going to alternate between a bugle bead and a seed bead. So you're going to have a seed, bugle, seed, etc. And you can make it as long as you like, because you're going to kind of weave in and out of the beads. You don't have to get them all on the needle at the same time. You want to end with a seed bead. one more. Okay. So now I've got my line of beads on here. I'm going to take that last bead out of the way, go through my bugle bead, and then skip the little seed bead in there. Push the seed bead down and go through the next bugle. And you keep doing that until you get to the top, and then you go back through your fabric. Little bead comes down, back through the bugle. Bead comes down, back through the bugle. And you're going to try to keep your thread pretty straight while you're working so it doesn't get all tangled up. And again, skip the bead, skip the seed bead, go through the bugle, skip the seed, go through the bugle, and then you're going to go through the last seed bead to anchor it down to the fabric. Oh, let's get back in focus here. So I'm going to go through my fabric. I'm going to hold on to that last bead at the end and pull it all through. Okay, you ready? Boop. And that's what happens. Now, the tighter you pull it, the more you're going to get it to zigzag. Now, by itself, it's not that exciting, but if you did like a whole row of them and they all kind of fall over each other, it's kind of fun. Okay, so that's a zigzag bead. Next, we're going to do the curlicue one. And for this, again, I don't care how many beads I have on here. I can, because I'm going to weave in and out. So I'm going to push my last bead out of the way, and I'm just going to weave in and out of every other bead. So I'm not going through the dark pink, and I'm just only going through the light pink. And if you're doing a whole row, if you want to do a lot of beaded fringe on your crazy quilts or on anything, you want to kind of save that till the last possible minute, because your other embroidery is going to get snagged on the fringe. Speak from experience. You also want to make sure that you're not going, when you go through the bead, make sure you're not also going through your thread. Because sometimes, especially with the really thin needles, it's easy to catch your thread on the needle. And then you're not going to have a nice curlicue fringe. Okay, so I'm going to just pull this up so you can see how it works. Because otherwise we'll be here all day. So when you pull it up, it just kind of curls like that. All right, and I would continue all the way up and do the whole thing, and that's this one here. Is the little curlicue. Okay. Next, we're going to do, now the curlicue and the zigzag fringe I learned from Robin Atkins. She lives out in Washington State, and she has a little book out. Oh, I forgot to bring it up here. Bad, poor bee. Bad on my part. Robin Atkins. You can look her up online. She's an amazing bead worker. And if you ever get a chance to take a class, do so. Okay, next is Kinky Fringe. And this was developed by Virginia Blakelock, who is also a master beader. I mean, she's extraordinary. Her work is in the Smithsonian and in the, oh my gosh, the Cooper Hewitt Museum in New York City. So we're going to start out with a line of beads. Again, as you know, make it as long as you want. I'm going to push my one bead out of the way. Okay. I'm going to go say through 3 beads. And pull my thread through and pull it tight. You don't want any loose threads here. You don't want any gaps. Okay, so now my thread is coming out 3 beads up, or 4 beads up from the bottom actually. Now I'm going to put on 4 pink beads and 1 maroon bead. And you could also do it with bugles. You could use any kind of combination you like. Okay. So just like we made the standard straight fringe, I'm going to just push my bead out of the way. I'm going to go back through those 4 beads and continue up the line. And go through 3 more beads, 3 more of the main stalk, if you will. And again, you want to pull it tight. Okay? In the beginning, this is going to look like a hangman character, you know, 2 arms, 2 legs. So again, I'm going to put on 4 beads and an end bead. And again, the woman who originated this type of beadwork was Virginia Blakelock. I go through a few beads. Now, you don't have to go through the same amount of beads each time. You can make it very random and organic. And pull it tight. Now, there's one more thing on here I want to show you. I'm not going to do the whole thing because, again, that takes a long time. And I know you have a lot to do today. So if you wanted to really make yourself crazy, because you're doing a crazy quilt, right? You could go through a few of those beads. Okay, so I came out in the middle of that spike. And what happened here? I know what happened. I didn't pull off the last bead correctly. Okay. So now I'm going to go through just 2 beads on that spike. Okay. So I guess you can guess what's coming next, right? I'm going to make a little spike off of that spike. I used to have a cat named Spike, and I thought it was a boy. But then she had 5 kittens. She was adopted by a rescue lady and found a good home. But her tail, she was a fluffy cat, and her tail was just always very spiky looking. So that was her name. So now you can see I've got a little fringe off the fringe. And again, I'm going to push that last bead out of the way. Go back through those 2, back through the original spike. Come out of there. This is like MapQuest directions, right? Okay. And then I'm going to come back through, let's get back in the camera, Leslie. I'm going to come back through my main stem here. and pull it tight. Okay, so you can just keep going like that. Now if you get your whole thing done and then you decide you want to make more fringes on the fringes, you can just, you know, thread up again, go back through from the top down and just go through all your fringes again to make extra spikes. You could also do this and then tack it down at one point. So if you want to make like a, you know, kind of a viney thing that has a little texture to it and isn't all tacked down, it's a good way to do that. Okay, one more to show you. This is, let's say you want to put a large bead on there and you want a kind of a different look than the other time we put a large bead on. So rather than just put one bead at the top, I've made enough to make a loop. And I'm just going to go through all my beads back into the fabric. And there we have a nice little loopy fringe. It's a great way to use broken jewelry or anything like that. Now getting back to my sample here, here's a large bead with a charm at the end. I do want to make one point though. If you are using cut crystals, which I don't think I have. Oh yeah, I do. Okay. Sorry about that. So if you're using a cut crystal like this, it's glass and the inside is sharp. So if you are putting on even if you're just putting it on a quilt, I would, instead of using the beading thread, I would use wire. And what you do is, it's Fireline is what I use. It's a 6-pound tensile strength. It's made by Beadsmith. It's available from Fire Mountain Gems. And it's very thin, and you know, it goes through your beading needles, but you will need a wire cutter to cut it. Don't use your embroidery scissors to cut it, okay? Because this way it's not going to stretch and it won't tear from the glass. I once made a vest and I had glass crystals all the way around the edge of the vest, and you know, slowly they all fell off because the bead itself tore the thread because it was so sharp. So anyway, that's beaded fringe. Next time we're going to do some chain stitch variations. And so please like and subscribe and share it with your friends. And that's all from now. See you next time. Bye-bye.